The distress signal pulsed through the void, a final, gasping cry from a dying world. The 𝐒𝐜𝐢 colony had fallen to the grey tide, a plague that turned flesh to liquid and cities into graveyards of writhing biomass. Their transmissions were frantic, pleading for medical aid, for salvation from any species listening. Then, the response came. Not the sleek, sterile hulls of the galactic hegemony's relief fleet. Not the biopurifiers of the 𝐒𝐞𝐢-𝐅𝐢. Instead, a single ship emerged from the dark, its silhouette jagged, asymmetrical, like a blade broken and reforged in the heart of a dying star. It moved withaut hails, without acknowledgement, only the cold, silent advance of something that did not need permission. The 𝐒𝐢 command hub erupted into chaos. Scanners identified the vessel's origin: human. A whisper tore through the ranks. Deathworlders. The archives had records. Broken, fragmented things, half myth, half warning. A species born on a planet where the air was poison, the predators were nightmares, and the very ground fought back. A species that had not just survived their world, they had conquered it. And then, when the stars called, they had not brought peace. They had brought war. Not against empires. Not against fleets. Against life itself. The human ship docked without request. The airlock hissed, seals breaking like the sound of a tomb cracking open. No greeting. No delegation. Only darkness yawned beyond the threshold. Then, the comms crackled to life. A voice, synthetic, toneless. Asterisk, quarantine protocol active. Asterisk, a pause. Asterisk, do not resist. Asterisk, the transmission cut. The 𝐒𝐢 looked at each other, their carapaces trembling. Outside, the first screams began. The 𝐒𝐢 boarding team moved in tight formation, their armored limbs clicking against the human ship's unervingly organic interior. The walls weren't smooth metal, they pulsed faintly, like veins under skin, threaded with black tendrils that recoiled at their touch. The air smelled sterile, chemical, but beneath it lurked something else, something wet and decaying. They found the crew. Or what was left of them. The cryopods were arranged in rows, their glass frosted over, labels etched in a jagged human script. The translation matrix struggled, but one phrase repeated: pathogen storage, Tier 12. Most pods were shattered from the inside. Empty. One was intact. The 𝐒𝐢 medic approached, scanners whirring. The pod's occupant was human, or had been. Its flesh was mottled, split in places by dark, fibrous growths. Its eyes snapped open. The medic stumbled back. The thing in the pod didn't move. It just watched. Then the ship's speakers hissed. Asterisk, containment breach detected. Asterisk, the pod's seal ruptured. A viscous black fluid spilled out, smoking where it touched the floor. The human corpse twitched, its jaw unhinging too wide, too wrong. The first scream was cut short. The thing moved faster than anything organic should. The medic's carapace cracked like eggshell under its fingers. The others fired, plasma bolts tearing through the dark. The thing didn't stop. It didn't even seem to notice. More pods began to open. The survivors ran. Behind them, the human ship's corridors twisted, sealing shut, rerouting them deeper into its belly. The walls bled now, dripping the same black fluid. The air grew thick with spores. A 𝐒𝐢 comms officer managed a final transmission back to the colony. Asterisk, they didn't send aid. They sent the plague. Asterisk, static. Then, a human voice, this one real, ragged, whispering like it was pressed against the mic. Asterisk, we tried to warn you. Asterisk, the line went dead. Outside, the colony's alarms began to wail. The 𝐒𝐢 command center was a storm of panic. Screens flickered with data too horrific to process, entire districts of the colony collapsing into seething black masses, their citizens liquefying mid-scream. The human ship's arrival hadn't just coincided with the grey tide's resurgence. It had triggered it. Deep in the archives, a scholar pulled records buried under layers of encryption. Fragments of intercepted human transmissions, war logs, medical reports. The truth emerged in jagged pieces. Earth hadn't fallen to invaders. It had eaten itself alive. The footage was grainy, corrupted, but unmistakable. Human cities choked under pulsating growths, their streets writhing with half-consumed figures still screaming as they melted into the tide. Then, fire. Orbital strikes scouring entire continents clean. The humans hadn't fought the plague. They'd weaponized it. A new alert screamed through the command center. The human ship's core was spiking, energy readings spiraling into the red. Not a meltdown. A detonation. The scholar understood first. This wasn't a rescue. It wasn't even an attack. It was sterilization. The surviving leadership scrambled for shuttles, for anything that could break orbit. The human ship's comms crackled one last time, a voice stripped of anything resembling pity. Asterisk, you are infected. You are vectors. Clean death is the only mercy left. Asterisk. The first shuttles erupted before they cleared the atmosphere, their hulls bursting with the same black veins now consuming the colony below. The human ship's core reached critical. Light. Then heat. Then nothing. Somewhere in the dark, another distress signal began to broadcast. A new human ship adjusted its course. Silence wrapped the scorched remains of the 𝐒𝐜𝐢 colony like a burial shroud. The atmosphere had been stripped away, the surface fused into glass by the detonation's cleansing fire. No bodies remained. No trace of the plague. Only the hollow echo of a world scrubbed sterile. Deep in the void, the ripple began. Other species intercepted the colony's final, fragmented transmissions. Panic flared across the galactic arm. Councils convened in shielded chambers, debating the unthinkable. Were the humans monsters, or had they just been the first to understand the true shape of the war? A hegemony scout ship dared to approach the quarantine zone. Their sensors picked up the wreckage of the human vessel, its blackened husk still radiating faint heat. And something else. A signal. Not a distress call. A beacon. The scout's translation matrix parsed the looping message, an automated burst, repeating in every known language, including those lost for millennia. It contained no plea for help. No declaration of war. Only coordinates. And a single line of text. They are still hungry. The signal's origin point was impossible. It came from beyond the galactic rim, from the hollow dark where no species dared to venture. The hegemony's oldest archives whispered of legends, of something that had slept in the void before the first stars ignited. The scout ship's crew voted to erase the recording. To pretend they'd never heard it. They were too late. As they turned to flee, their long-range scanners flickered. A new contact appeared at the edge of their display, a shape that defied physics, a silhouette that hurt the eyes to observe. It moved toward the dead colony. Toward the human wreckage. Toward the beacon. The scout's captain gave one final order before the comms dissolved into static. Tell them we were wrong about the humans. The last thing the sensors recorded before the dark swallowed them whole was the human ship's beacon switching off. As if its purpose had been fulfilled. Far away, in the deepest vaults of a forgotten outpost, a bank of monitors flickered to life. Cryopods hissed open. Small, hairless figures stirred in the gloom, their eyes reflecting the dim glow of a galaxy about to learn the true meaning of fear. One of them reached for a console. A new signal flared to life across the stars. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a rallying cry. The signal burned through the galaxy like a virus, bypassing encryption, ignoring firewalls, crawling into every secure channel. It wasn't decoded, it unfolded in the minds of those who heard it, bypassing language centers to imprint directly onto the subconscious. Every species heard it in their own tongue, their own voice, whispering from the inside of their skulls. Asterisk, you have seen the cleansing fire. You have heard the lies of the silent dark. Now witness the truth. Asterisk. Then came the memories. Not recordings. Not transmissions. Experiences. A wave of agony rolled through the galactic network as a billion minds were forced to relive Earth's final days. The taste of blood and melting metal. The screams of children as their skin split and blossomed into something else. The moment humanity realized this wasn't a plague, it was a harvest. And the decision that followed. The hegemony's High Chancellor collapsed during emergency proceedings, her carapace cracking as she convulsed with shared memory. They didn't create the weapon, she gasped. They became it. On a derelict monitoring station near the old human borders, a lone technician watched his screens fill with impossible data. The dead zones were moving. The graveyards of sterilized worlds pulsed with new energy signatures. Something was waking up. The last human ship emerged from the dark without fanfare. No weapons. No armor. Just a hollowed-out husk of a vessel, its corridors filled with the same blackened growths that had consumed Earth. It broadcast no messages. Issued no warnings. It simply opened fire. Not with plasma or kinetics. The beam it emitted didn't burn, it unmade. Planets caught in its path didn't explode. They unfolded, their matter unraveling into base components before dissipating like smoke. The galactic arm's quarantine line became a stormfront of screaming atoms. Somewhere in the chaos, a single human voice cut through the noise. Not a recording. Live transmission. "You thought we were the monsters," it said. Asterisk, "You were right. But we're not the ones you should be afraid of." Asterisk. The transmission cut off as the first dead world beyond the rim cracked open. Something inside was answering the call. The unraveling beam struck the dead world with surgical precision, not destroying it but peeling it apart, layer after layer of rock and metal splitting like rotten fruit. What emerged from the core wasn't a ship or a weapon. It was a mouth. A yawning, fractal abyss of black filaments and teeth that bent light around it, visible only in the negative space where stars winked out. The thing didn't speak. It pulled. Nearby ships listed toward it, their engines flaring uselessly against an impossible gravity. Then, one by one, their hulls split along seams that hadn't existed seconds before, spilling crews into the void, not as corpses, but as components, disassembled mid-scream into swirling streams of raw biomatter. The last human ship didn't flee. It accelerated toward the breach, its skeletal frame crackling with energy. For the first time, its systems interfaced directly with the galactic network, overriding all encryption to broadcast a final data burst, an unredacted history of Earth's fall. Not as a warning. As a declaration of war. The files contained schematics. Of weapons. Of shields. Of the only known method to hurt what was coming. None of them were designed for alien hands. Every blueprint was drenched in human biology, their activation protocols requiring neural patterns only a Deathworlder's brain could survive. The Hegemony's Science Council recoiled from the implications. They don't want us to fight, their lead researcher realized. They want us to finish what they started. On the edge of the battlefield, the first alien ship modified with human tech activated its new weapons array. The crew had known the risks. They'd seen the casualty reports, 90% neural burnout rate. They fired anyway. The beam struck the mouth. For the first time in recorded history, something in the dark screamed. The human ship didn't celebrate. It detonated itself at the epicenter of the wound, the blast pattern forming a perfect symbol, a circle with a slash through it. The same marking that had been found scorched into Earth's ruins. Not a gravestone. A rallying point. Across the galaxy, 1,000 dormant signals flickered to life. The messages were identical. Asterisk, burn with us. Asterisk. And from the void, something answered. The scream from the dark reverberated through subspace, a psychic shockwave that shattered monitoring stations 3 sectors away. Every species with synaptic tissue blacked out for exactly 3.7 seconds, except the few who had integrated human neurotech. They remained conscious just long enough to witness the impossible. The mouth bled. Gouts of iridescent fluid the color of dying stars erupted from the wound, each droplet distorting gravity where they fell. Ships caught in the downpour came apart in slow motion, their atoms repelled by some fundamental force older than physics. The human-derived weapons had done what nothing else in recorded history had achieved. They made the dark hurt. The Hegemony's surviving warships regrouped behind the corpse of the last human vessel, its shattered hull still broadcasting that final symbol, the slashed circle. Their engineers worked frantically, grafting human tech into alien systems despite the screaming warnings about compatibility failures. 𝐒𝐜𝐢's destroyer was the first to fire the modified arrays without exploding. The beam struck true. Another scream. More black blood. Then the mouth moved. Not toward the fleet. Not in retreat. It turned with glacial inevitability toward the galactic core, where 1,000 thriving worlds pulsed with unprotected life. The message was clear: if it couldn't consume the weapons, it would feast on the defenseless. That was when the second human ship appeared. No one detected its arrival. One moment empty space yawned where the 𝐒𝐜𝐢's flank had been, the next a jagged silhouette occupied the void. This one bore no resemblance to the sterilizer vessels, its hull pulsed with bioluminescent scars, its architecture visibly healing from wounds no metal should sustain. Its transmission burned across every channel in a voice that hadn't been heard since Earth fell. Asterisk, you learned to wound it. Now learn to kill. Asterisk. The ship didn't attack. It unfolded, its structure blooming outward in a fractal pattern that mirrored the mouth's own geometry, but where the enemy's shape brought despair, this one sang with terrible purpose. The alien crews felt it in their bones before their instruments confirmed it. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a countermeasure. The mouth convulsed as the human ship's true form locked into place, a perfect shadow of its own horror. For the first time, the dark hesitated. Then the real war began. The unfolding human ship didn't fire weapons, it sang. A resonant frequency pulsed through the void, vibrating through hull plating and alien carapaces alike. The mouth recoiled as if struck, its fractal edges curling inward like burned paper. Nearby starships shuddered as their systems interpreted the sound wave, not as noise, but as data. The song contained schematics, neural patterns, a blueprint for something older than humanity. The 𝐒𝐜𝐢 science officer was the first to understand. It's not a weapon system, she whispered, her antennae trembling. It's an invocation. The mouth thrashed against the song's binding harmonics, bleeding that impossible iridescence in great arterial spurts. But the human ship kept singing, its structure now fully transformed into a shimmering web of light and shadow. The alien crews watched in stunned silence as the web pulled, drawing taut against some unseen dimension. Then, a tear. Reality split along the web strands, revealing a glimpse of something beyond the breach. Not empty void. Not some alien dimension. Earth. Not the dead world they'd seen in the transmissions. This was Earth whole, its blue-green surface pulsing with that same terrible bioluminescence that now coated the human ship. The sight sent a wave of primal terror through every observer. This wasn't a memorial. It was a nest. The mouth shrieked in recognition, a sound that liquefied 3 nearby destroyers. It tried to flee, but the song held it fast. The tear widened. Something moved in the light of the unbroken Earth. Many somethings. The last human transmission cut through the chaos, calm and final. Asterisk, you feared what we became. Now witness what we made. Asterisk. The first tendril emerged from the breach. Then the galaxy went dark. The tendril from the breach didn't move. Asterisk space moved around it. Asterisk one moment it was a filament thinner than a quantum thread, the next it had grown through a hegemony battleship like the vessel was made of smoke. The crew didn't even have time to scream. Their bodies unraveled into strands of genetic material, absorbed before the first alarm could sound. The mouth shrieked again, but this time it wasn't pain. It was terror. The human ship's song shifted, the harmonics twisting into something darker. The tear in reality pulsed, shuddered, then ripped wider. What came through wasn't a ship. Wasn't a weapon. It was a hand. 5 colossal fingers, each a braid of flickering event horizons, closed around the mouth. The thing that had haunted the dark before stars existed struggled. It thrashed. It screamed in a way that made time stutter. It didn't matter. The hand squeezed. Iridescent blood became a supernova, flash-boiling entire fleets where they floated. The mouth collapsed inward, folding into a singularity of pure wrongness, then vanished, erased so completely even the memory of its existence frayed at the edges. Silence. Then, movement from the breach. The hand retreated, but in its wake came shapes. Humanoid, but stretched, distorted, their bodies woven from the same impossible physics as the ship's song. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Every mind in the system felt their message. Asterisk, the harvest has been delayed. Not stopped. Asterisk. The figures turned toward the galactic core. One raised a hand, not in greeting, in warning. Then they were gone. The tear sealed itself. The human ship's light faded. Only the slashed circle remained, glowing faintly in the void. A symbol. A promise. A countdown.